The Baldwins, Hilaria Baldwin, a very fluid narcissist, part 12. We have found out about a little of the history of Hilaria Baldwin. We have also touched on her interaction with her husband, the dynamic between them, although that will be examined in greater detail in due course. And we have also identified a range of significant narcissistic indicators arising from her behaviour through social media, exhibiting her sense of entitlement, the absence of emotional empathy, the absence of accountability, manipulative behaviours, grandiosity, haughtiness, and key aspects of the narcissistic dynamic. Time and time again, her response to instances where her control has been threatened has showed one of the three assertions of control, and she has exhibited the pursuit, unconsciously, of the prime aims. Therefore, there were many indicators that already existed, but what really caused her to come upon the radar was, of course, the issue of her being a fraud by pretending to be Spanish. Hitherto, she had adopted the cod Spanish accent, and so, for example, for Extra TV, there was an instance where she did yoga with El Gorda y la Flaca host Raúl de Molina, and she layered the fake accent on in a really significant fashion, hamming it up to make it seem as if she was Hispanic. But of course, we now know that that accent was just part of fakery, and indeed she hadn't been able to maintain a consistent accent on a number of occasions. Indeed, in an appearance on Good Morning America in 2012, the accent dropped, and it did so again on Extra in 2012, and it did so again on Today in 2015, and it did it again on Today in 2018, and it did it again on Extra in 2018, and it did it again on L in 2019. Several occasions where the accent fell to the wayside and her normal American accent became apparent. Of course, there was also the fact that she ended up as well forgetting, supposedly, the word for cucumber, even though she, of course, is a native English speaker. Such was the extent to which she was pretending to be Spanish, she caused herself, in effect, to forget what the word is, despite knowing full well what it is. And that incident, where she said, "What's the word?" and then managed to say it herself, exemplifies the compartmentalization manner of narcissism. You'll be aware from my work where I have explained to you that the narcissism will cause the revision of history, so a narcissist will genuinely believe they have not done something, so that when you assert that this person has, the narcissist can deny it completely and convincingly. The narcissism deletes the event in order to ensure that the narcissist truly believes their own position. You, of course, are left thinking, how on earth can they deny this? I know this took place. They must know that they're lying. And as I've repeatedly explained to you with lesser and mid-range narcissists, their lies are their own truth. Why, then, had she adopted this Spanish accent? Well, of course, she is a chameleon, like all narcissists. There'll be narcissists that will, for instance, behave in the way that they're the corporate guru at work, the charming family man around family, that they are Mr. Lover Man when out on the town chasing people, becoming all things to all individuals. Certain narcissists will alter the way that they speak, the type of language that they will use, mannerisms, mirroring people in different ways. Because of the absence of a central core, what you all experience in your day-to-day interactions with the narcissist is a fluid construct. That construct shapeshifts to whatever is required in order to get hold of those prime aims. And her narcissism determined that by appearing to be Hispanic, by affecting a cod Spanish accent. That would enable her to assert control over people more readily, to draw fuel from them, to attain certain character traits, and enable her to get residual benefits. Of course, her narcissism selected this as part of appealing to a Hispanic audience, so that she would be mirroring them by adopting that accent. And she has done so for years. Now, of course, it's quite clearly the case as well that Alec Baldwin must have known that that wasn't her real accent. And we will touch on that when I deal with the dynamic between these two in a further part. But the fact is, she affected this because, driven by her narcissism, it caused her to do this on each and every instance where it could for the pursuit of the prime aims. She maintained a facade of essentially being Spanish. And like any facade with a narcissist, it only stands up in certain situations. And therefore, certain threats to control will cause it to be punctuated. And it's interesting that in the interview for Good Morning America in 2012, where she's asked about the differences since marrying Alec Baldwin, she doesn't really have an immediate answer. And at that juncture, in order to nullify the threat to control, she needs to provide some answer. And in essence, panics, dropping the Spanish facade and just coming up with an answer about saying, well, it's different because I now call him my husband. In that instance, there was a stressor between the need for control and the maintenance of the facade. Usually, when it comes to the facade that's adopted by many narcissists is one of being a kind and pleasant person. And then all of a sudden, there is a stressor caused by a threat to control, which causes that facade to crack. And you suddenly see a nasty side to the narcissist, where hitherto they'd always been extremely pleasant and kind. That is the more traditional method of seeing behind the facade. Of course, invariably there are one or two people in the fuel matrix, usually the intimate partner, primary source, often a family member, who don't get that facade. They get the veneer to begin with, when the narcissist keeps the beast quiet, and then the facade is used externally to other people. So all of the neighbours, the people at church, the people at work think this person is a regular guy, kind, committed and helpful. His wife, in devaluation, doesn't get treated to the facade because that's just a one-on-one. But externally to the world, that facade of being helpful and being kind is maintained. But sometimes it cracks so that those other people, family members, friends, neighbours, sometimes get a glimpse of what's beneath that facade. Here, Hilaria Baldwin adopted probably two facades. One of being a kind and empathic person. We see that in the language that she uses. She exhibits cognitive empathy. We've seen that in the Instagram post, etc. But also, she has maintained this facade of being Spanish, the purpose of which is to get, as usual, the prime aims for the reasons that I've already explained. So she did this guided by her narcissism. She knew that she was affecting a false Spanish accent, but she didn't know the reasons why she was doing it: fuel, character traits, residual benefits, and control. So she was aware that she was putting it on, but she didn't know the genuine reasons for it. It wasn't the case that she just instinctively did it all of the time. She knew that she was putting it on, because I imagine, for instance, within the Baldwin household, she dropped it. And of course, where we see instances where she's put under a little bit of pressure, where there is a threat to control, namely when there's been television appearances, it falls to the wayside because the type of narcissist that she is, she's only got so much, if we could call it, the coping mechanism available. So imagine she's got 20 points available and she can spend 10 points on the facade and 10 points on maintaining control. But if somebody comes along demanding extra points need to be spent on control, she has to shift them from the facade to the control aspect. It's a little bit like on the Millennium Falcon, shifting the power from the front shields to the rear shields. And so she moves those points, or the narcissism does, from the facade of being Spanish to the maintenance of control, because control comes before everything. And in so doing, she gets that control, but then the facade slips and we hear her speaking as an American. And that's why that happens. All of this came about as a consequence, as the Daily Beast reports from an article on 27th of December 2020. Last week, a Twitter sleuth sketched out how Hilaria Baldwin, the influencer wife of actor and sometime SNL star Alec Baldwin, has perpetrated a decade-long grift where she impersonates a Spanish person. The user, who goes by the handle at Lenny Briscoe, shared a number of damning videos of Hilaria, from a Good Morning appearance where she employed a Spanish accent to a Today Show stop in which she supposedly couldn't remember the English word for cucumber. Further posts showed Hilaria's mother discussing growing up in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, not Barcelona or Valencia, and numerous articles pointed to how she had spent virtually her entire career practicing medicine in Massachusetts, where she'd served as an associate physician at Massachusetts General Hospital and an associate professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School until she retired from both positions in 2012, according to Mass Live. In a video interview, she said she moved to Mallorca, Spain, in 2011, the same day Hilaria began dating Alec. An obituary for Hilaria's grandfather on her father's side stated that he was an American with roots in the country that predated the American Revolution, while a wedding announcement indicated that her grandfather's first wife and mother of their children hailed from Nebraska. Hilaria Baldwin's CAA speaker page claims she was born in Mallorca, Spain, as does her IMDb bio, both lies. She said on a podcast earlier this year, "I moved here to America when I was 19 to go to NYU from my family lives in Spain. They live in Mallorca," adding, "I knew no pop culture." She's graced the cover of Hola magazine, a Spanish-language publication based out of Madrid, where she identified as a Spanish person in both the interview and its press release, telling of a lie for the assertion of control. Alec Baldwin has repeatedly referred to her as Spanish online, lie for the assertion of control, and she's made a number of appearances in Latina magazine, which she's enthusiastically promoted. Spain is not a part of Latin America, by the way, and has referred to Spain as her home. If that were not enough, her 5 young children with Baldwin, at the time this article was written, all have Spanish names. It appears that Hilaria's real name is Hillary Hayward Thomas, according to her old MySpace page and those who claim to be her old classmates. Now, of course, that demonstrates as well the level of her narcissism, that by seeking to assert control in the moment and the affectation of this facade, it completely forgets that there's evidence out there that will contradict her, namely old classmates, an old MySpace page, and other documented evidence also. The narcissism doesn't care about that because it's not on the radar at the time that she's using the facade. And of course, with the level of narcissist that she is, she's not careful enough to ensure that those things have been carefully pieced together to maintain that she is, in inverted commas, Spanish, and instead leaves her open to criticism and being proved to be wrong. She attended the private Cambridge School of Weston in Massachusetts, and in her senior yearbook is listed as Hillary Hayward Thomas. Again, further evidence. A Nexus search disclosed that her New York voter registration is under both the names, Hilaria L. Baldwin and Hillary Hayward Thomas. In light of the Twitter discourse, Hilaria took to Instagram to explain her side of the story. Threat to control, therefore, has to nullify that threat, again taking to social media. "First thing I told my husband is that I was born in Boston." "Oh, not Mallorca." "Ah." She said, "I spent a lot of my childhood in Spain. My nuclear family lives in Spain and has lived there for a long time, but you weren't born there, Hilaria, even though you said you were. And I came here. I was moving around a lot, but I came here when I was 19 years old to go to college." She continued, "I've never said that my mother was Spanish. My family is a big mix of so many things. I don't really understand why this is turning into such a big thing." Well, that's your narcissism deflecting it, not allowing you to see it because you're blinded by it. "I want to take it seriously, but I also don't want it to be all of a sudden I'm apologising for who I am." You're not apologising for who you are. You're apologising for who you're not, for trying to con everybody by maintaining that you're Spanish when you're not. And again, that demonstrates the deflection occurring in that sentence because of her narcissism. Because at this point, I'm starting to feel that I'm being attacked for who I am. Playing the victim, pity play, No, you're not, Hilaria / Hillary. You're being attacked for who you're not, and that no answer is the right answer. Alec Baldwin also took to Instagram and over the course of 8 meandering minutes appeared to deny that there was any merit to the controversy surrounding Hilaria / Hillary. The majority of what's been said, and again I don't want to enumerate what those things are, is false, he asserted, and some of it's so spectacularly false, as much as that hurts, the only thing I can do is talk to that half of the public or portion of the public who understands what I mean when I say, consider the source, consider the source. Thanks for that dose of word salad there, Alec. Now, there is still the possibility that Hilaria Baldwin spent a considerable amount of time, the article explains, in Spain as a child and may be possessed of a fondness for Spanish culture. But it does not appear likely that she is Spanish. Her New York Times wedding announcement says she was raised in Boston and Spain. In a bizarre twist, the first person who appears to have called out Hilaria Baldwin on all fronts is none other than Genevieve Saborin, Alec Baldwin's stalker. In 2012, Saborin tweeted, Alec Baldwin wife Hilaria, real name Hillary Haywood Thomas, lied while called 911 on me with her false name. I'll file for felony. She was ultimately convicted of stalking Alec Baldwin and sentenced to 6 months in prison. It seems to me that there was a complete confluence of narcissists there. But let's continue as we discuss matters in part 13. More fallout from this incidence of being somebody that she actually isn't, which of course is emphasised by the need for the prime aims and just goes to demonstrate further that she is a narcissist. Join me there.